What if I told you that millions of men over 60 are spending hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars on performance medications, treatments, and supplements, while the solution to a significant part of their erectile difficulty is sitting in their bathroom drawer, costing approximately $50? You probably walked past it this morning without a second thought. It is a device precision engineered to produce consistent, controlled vibration. It delivers a mechanical oscillation frequency that directly corresponds to the range shown in clinical research to stimulate mechanoreceptors and activate peripheral nerve pathways. And yet 99% of men have never considered this specific application. I am talking about something you already own. A device that has been engineered to deliver consistent vibrational frequency output within a defined and reproducible range. Medical device manufacturers charge thousands of dollars for clinical vibration therapy equipment used in physiotherapy, pelvic floor rehabilitation, and sexual medicine. But the underlying mechanical principle, targeted oscillation within a specific frequency range delivered to a precise anatomical structure, is available to you through a device sitting in your bathroom right now. My name is Dr. William Lee. I am a physician, scientist, and author of Eat to Beat Disease, a research framework exploring how specific, biologically aligned interventions activate the body's own defense and repair systems at the cellular and neurological level. Over the course of my career, I have studied how the body's natural functional systems can be reactivated through targeted, non-pharmaceutical inputs when those inputs are aligned with the underlying biology. When I recognized that men were allocating significant resources toward expensive treatments while overlooking a simple evidence-aligned technique requiring no additional cost, I knew this information needed to reach the men who need it most. The technique takes 30 seconds. It requires no prescription and no special equipment beyond what you already own. And it works because of a physiological principle most men have never been taught. Targeted mechanical stimulation of specific anatomical structures can reactivate dormant nerve pathways and restore blood flow to the pelvic neurovascular system that time. Reduced activity and chronic tension have progressively underactivated. Before we get into the technique itself, I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments where in the world you are watching from. Seeing the geographic reach of this community genuinely motivates the content I create. And hit the subscribe button now so you do not miss this technique and the evidence-based strategies I will be sharing in future videos. Now let's begin with the science behind why this works. 1. What is the device A&D? Why is it biologically effective? Let me be precise about the device and the scientific rationale for its effectiveness in this specific application. Your standard electric razor, whether foil or rotary design, generates vibrations in the range of approximately 7,000 to 10,000 oscillations per minute. This is not incidental mechanical buzzing. It is precisely engineered oscillation, calibrated for consistent output across that frequency range as a core design requirement of the device. Now here is why that specific frequency range carries biological significance. Research in vibration therapy, a field spanning sports medicine, physiotherapy, and sexual medicine, has consistently identified that mechanical oscillation in the range of approximately 100 to 300 Hz, which corresponds closely to the output of a standard electric razor, is particularly effective at stimulating mechanoreceptors. Mechanoreceptors are specialized sensory nerve endings distributed throughout the body's soft tissue that respond specifically to mechanical pressure and vibration as their primary sensory modality. When mechanoreceptors are activated at the appropriate oscillation frequency. They initiate a cascade of neurological and vascular responses that can measurably increase blood flow, improve nerve signal transmission, and reduce chronic muscular tension in the targeted anatomical region. This means the vibration your electric razor produces is not arbitrary. It falls within the physiological range that activates the sensory nerve endings most directly relevant to pelvic floor function and erectile neurophysiology. The anatomical target, which I will explain in precise detail in the next section, lies directly above critical structures that govern erectile function in men over 60. When those structures become underactivated, which happens progressively in men who sit for extended periods, experience reduced sexual activity, or carry unresolved chronic pelvic tension, the neurovascular pathways supporting erections lose operational efficiency. Blood flow to key pelvic structures decreases. Nerve signal transmission weakens. Morning erections become less frequent and less firm. Arousal response slows. And none of this is primarily caused by permanent structural damage. It is caused by underactivation of systems that remain fully capable of recovery when given the right consistent stimulus. Vibration therapy is used in clinical settings for pelvic floor rehabilitation following prostatectomy, for treatment of Peyronie's disease, and in post-surgical erectile recovery programs. The science of mechanotransduction, the conversion of mechanical energy into neurological and vascular cellular signals, is well established in biomedical research. What I am sharing today is the application of that same validated biological principle through a device you already possess. 2. The perineum, the anatomical gateway to erectile function. The specific pressure point at the center of this technique is the perineum, more precisely the perineal body, also called the central perineal tendon. This is the soft tissue region located anatomically midway between the base of the testicles and the anus. Most men have never given this area deliberate attention, yet from a functional anatomy and sexual medicine standpoint, the perineum sits directly above some of the most operationally critical structures for male erectile function. Let me explain precisely what lies beneath this anatomical point and why it carries such significance for men over 60 experiencing erectile decline. Directly beneath the perineal body lies the bulbospongiosus muscle. This deep pelvic floor muscle is physiologically responsible for trapping blood within the corpus spongiosum during erection, generating the internal hydraulic pressure that produces and sustains firmness. In men who are physically active and sexually active, this muscle is regularly activated and well perfused. But in men over 60 who have reduced sexual activity, who spend substantial time in seated positions, or who carry chronic pelvic floor tension, the bulbospongiosis can develop progressive underactivation. Blood flow to the muscle declines. Its contractile efficiency and response speed deteriorate. Erections lose firmness, duration, and the reliability they once had. Also passing through this anatomical region is the pudendal nerve, the primary sensory and motor nerve of the male perineum. The pudendal nerve is responsible for carrying the electrochemical signals that communicate between the brain's autonomic erectile control centers and the entire peripheral erectile apparatus, including the vascular structures of the penis and the surrounding pelvic musculature. When the pudendal nerve is functioning at full capacity, it transmits rapid, efficient signals that coordinate the vascular dilation events that constitute an erection. When it becomes underactivated or experiences mild compression due to chronic pelvic tension and reduced local circulation, signal transmission weakens. The brain sends the physiological message, but the body's response becomes delayed, diminished, or unreliable. The relationship between perineal function and erectile health is well documented in urological research. Cyclists who experience chronic perineal compression from saddle pressure demonstrate measurably impaired erectile function through the same pudendal nerve compression mechanism. Pelvic floor physical therapists target the perineum specifically in age-related and post-surgical erectile rehabilitation programs. The anatomical logic is internally consistent and clinically supported. Activate the perineum appropriately, and you activate the neurovascular infrastructure of erection through its primary anatomical gateway. For men over 60, restoring optimal activation to this region through targeted, consistent mechanical stimulation is not a speculative intervention. It is the application of a documented physiological principle to a structurally significant anatomical location. 3. The technique. Step by step with precision. Now let me walk you through the technique with the precision that makes the difference between a biologically meaningful intervention and simply going through a motion. Getting the positioning, pressure, and duration exactly right determines whether the mechanoreceptors in the target tissue are adequately stimulated at a therapeutic level. Begin by creating the right physical and mental conditions. This technique is significantly more effective when the pelvic floor is relaxed rather than in a state of active contraction. Tension in the pelvic floor reduces both circulation and neural accessibility in the perineal region, working against exactly what the technique is trying to achieve. Privacy and physical comfort are therefore not optional preferences. They are functional requirements. Sit on the edge of your bed with both feet flat on the floor, or stand comfortably with feet approximately shoulder width apart. Take a few slow, deliberate breaths to allow pelvic floor tension to release before beginning. Take your electric razor, confirm it is clean, and turn it to full vibration output. Maximum frequency setting, not a reduced or comfort setting. The full vibration output is what corresponds to the mechanoreceptor activating frequency range. Now locate the perineum precisely. Place one finger midway between the base of your testicles and your anus. You may notice a slight indentation or softness at the center of that midpoint zone. That subtle depression marks the perineal body, your anatomical target. Here is the technical detail that is most critical to execute correctly. You will apply the back casing or smooth side of the razor to this point, specifically not the cutting head or blade mechanism. Use the smooth exterior surface of the razor body. Vibration transfers efficiently through the device casing to the underlying tissue. Apply steady, deliberate pressure. The goal is to feel the oscillation transmitting clearly into the perineal tissue beneath the skin surface. This should never be painful. It should feel like firm, consistent mechanical vibration reaching structures that may not have received this kind of stimulation before. If it is painful, reduce pressure. Mild discomfort from the unfamiliar sensation of vibration is expected. Pain is not. Maintain this position with consistent pressure for exactly 30 seconds. This duration is not arbitrary. Mechanoreceptor activation requires sustained input to generate the downstream neurological and vascular responses that produce biological change. Brief, intermittent contact produces minimal therapeutic effect. Consistent, held stimulation at adequate pressure across the full 30 seconds is what initiates the pudendal nerve pathway activation and local blood flow response. During those 30 seconds, you may notice tingling in the perineum or deeper pelvic structures, mild warmth in the region, or a subtle pulsing sensation in the area. These are expected physiological responses, indicating that the vibration is reaching the target mechanoreceptors and initiating the intended neural activation. They are not cause for concern. They are signs that the technique is working as intended. After 30 seconds, turn off the razor and remove it. Many men notice an immediate sense of increased warmth or awareness in the pelvic region following the session. This post-session sensation reflects the improved blood flow to the area that results from the mechanical stimulation. 4. The biology of those 30 seconds. Let me explain in precise biological terms what is actually occurring during those 30 seconds of targeted perineal vibration, because understanding the mechanism allows you to apply the technique with genuine conviction rather than uncertain hope. When you apply the razor vibration to the perineum, you are initiating mechanotransduction, the process through which mechanical energy is converted by specialized cellular receptors into electrochemical signals the nervous system can process and act upon. The perineal tissue contains high densities of mechanoreceptors, including Meissner's corpuscles and Pacinian corpuscles, both of which are exquisitely sensitive to vibration in the frequency range your razor produces. When these receptors activate, they generate afferent nerve signals that travel along the pudendal nerve, through the sacral nerve roots at the base of the spine, and into the spinal cord's erectile reflex centers, and the brain's autonomic control pathways for pelvic function. This neural activation triggers a specific sequence of vascular responses. Nitric oxide release increases in the pelvic vasculature. Nitric oxide is the primary molecular mediator of smooth muscle relaxation in blood vessel walls and the central biochemical signal that initiates arterial dilation and erectile blood flow. The helicine arteries of the penis, the specialized vascular structures that fill the erectile chambers when an erection occurs, respond to this upstream neural signal by relaxing and dilating. Blood flow to the bulbospongiosus muscle improves. The entire pelvic neurovascular system receives a coordinated activation signal that its daily routine has not been providing. Simultaneously, the sustained vibration addresses a second contributing factor that is frequently overlooked in discussions of erectile decline, chronic pelvic floor tension. Men who spend significant portions of their day seated, who carry psychological or occupational stress, or who have reduced sexual activity, commonly develop a low-grade state of chronic contraction in the pelvic floor muscles. This muscular holding pattern compresses the vascular and neural structures of the perineum, reducing blood flow and impeding efficient nerve signal transmission. The sustained vibration at therapeutic pressure mechanically disrupts and releases this chronic tension pattern, restoring the vascular and neural accessibility that compression had been restricting. The combined effect of these two mechanisms, pudendal nerve pathway activation through mechanotransduction and chronic pelvic tension release through vibrational mechanical input, produces a measurable improvement in the operational readiness of the entire erectile neurovascular system. The structures responsible for erections receive better blood supply, transmit more efficient nerve signals, and respond with greater speed and reliability to arousal stimuli. 5. Realistic expectations AND the biological timeline. I want to give you an accurate and scientifically grounded picture of what to expect and when. Results from this technique accumulate through a process of progressive nerve pathway reactivation and improving vascular circulation that has a defined biological timeline. Understanding that timeline prevents the most common and most damaging failure mode, abandoning the practice before sufficient biological change has had time to accumulate. In the first 24 to 48 hours following your initial sessions, the primary observable change will be increased sensory awareness in the pelvic region. Men consistently describe a new sense of aliveness, warmth, or subtle activation in the perineum and surrounding structures that was not present before. This represents mechanoreceptors and local circulation responding to stimulation they have not been receiving regularly. It is an early and meaningful sign that the technique is reaching the target tissue and initiating the intended biological response. Between days 3 and 5, many men begin noticing the return of partial morning erections or increased firmness upon waking that had been absent or minimal for a considerable period. This represents the beginning of pudendal nerve pathway reactivation. The neural signal efficiency between the brain's erectile control centers and the pelvic vasculature is beginning to improve. The morning erection is one of the most reliable biological markers of erectile system health and among the earliest indicators of recovery. During weeks 1 and 2, morning erections typically become more consistent and progressively firmer. Men also commonly report faster arousal response during intimate situations, indicating that nerve sensitivity and vascular reactivity in the erectile system are strengthening in a sustained way across multiple contexts, not just in isolated instances. By weeks 3 and 4, the majority of men who have applied the technique with genuine daily consistency report significant and meaningful improvements across multiple dimensions: fuller morning erections, more reliable performance during intimacy, faster recovery between episodes, and meaningfully improved confidence in their body's functional capacity. The daily stimulation across this period has progressively retrained the neural pathways and improved the baseline vascular circulation to the pelvic floor as a whole. I want to emphasize one point from a physiological standpoint. The improvements produced through this technique are not pharmacological effects that disappear when a drug clears the system. They represent genuine, accumulated changes in nerve pathway operational efficiency and vascular circulation patterns that build with consistent practice and are maintained with continued application. 6. The 3 mistakes that prevent results. In any approach that requires consistent daily practice to produce cumulative biological results, the mistakes that prevent success are almost always behavioral and attitudinal rather than technical. Let me walk through the 3 patterns I see most consistently that prevent men from experiencing the full benefit of this technique. The first and most damaging mistake is inconsistency. Nerve pathway reactivation through mechanotransduction is explicitly a cumulative process. Each daily session builds neurologically on the previous session, progressively increasing the operational efficiency of the pudendal nerve pathway and the vascular circulation to the pelvic floor over time. When sessions are skipped irregularly, the progressive accumulation of neural adaptation is disrupted and the biological timeline resets. Men who try the technique for 3 days, skip 4 days, try it once more, and then question whether it works have not given the biology the continuous input it requires to build momentum and produce measurable change. Nerve pathway reactivation does not tolerate the same inconsistency that other lifestyle changes might accommodate. The biology requires reliable daily input. Inconsistent practice produces incomplete and unreliable outcomes. The second common mistake is insufficient pressure or shortened duration. 30 seconds of firm, consistent pressure at full vibration output is the minimum effective dose for mechanoreceptor activation at the therapeutic level. Men who apply the razor for 10 to 15 seconds with light or tentative contact are not delivering sufficient mechanical energy to adequately stimulate the target mechanoreceptors. Pressure must be deliberate, steady, and sustained. The vibration must be felt penetrating into the perineal tissue beneath the skin surface. Surface contact without adequate pressure produces minimal biological response. The technique needs to reach the mechanoreceptors in the deeper perineal tissue, not simply vibrate against the skin. The third mistake is expecting pharmaceutical speed results from a biological reactivation process that operates on a different timeline. Men who apply the technique once notice no immediate dramatic change and conclude that it is ineffective, have not allowed the biological process sufficient time to produce observable results. Nerve pathway reactivation that has been dormant for months or years does not reverse in a single session. The expectation needs to align with the biological timeline of neural adaptation and vascular recovery. Understanding these three patterns clearly before beginning allows you to avoid them deliberately and give the technique the consistent, correctly applied daily practice the biology requires. 7. The 14-day challenge A&D conclusion. Here is the specific structured commitment I want to offer you. Commit to this technique every single day for 14 consecutive days. Not 12 days with 2 skipped. Not 14 days with reduced pressure or shortened duration. 14 consecutive days, 30 seconds per session, same time of day each day, full vibration output, precise anatomical location. Deliberate and consistent pressure throughout the full duration. Structure those 14 days with clear biological intention. During days 1 through 3, focus entirely on technical precision and body awareness. Learn the exact anatomy through direct tactile exploration. Find your precise perineal body target. Become comfortable with the positioning, pressure, and session duration. Begin developing conscious awareness of what increased pelvic circulation and nerve activation feels like compared to the baseline you started with. These foundation days are about establishing reliable, reproducible technique before biological results begin to accumulate meaningfully. During days 4 through 7, direct your primary attention to morning erection quality. You may notice partial firmness upon waking, where there was previously minimal or no response, or increased duration of morning erections that had been brief or absent. Track this change honestly and without judgment. Early morning improvements are the most reliable early biological indicator that pudendal nerve pathway efficiency is beginning to improve, and that pelvic blood flow is responding to the daily stimulation. During days 8 through 14, evaluate your overall trajectory across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Morning erection quality and consistency, speed of arousal response during intimacy, overall pelvic warmth and sensitivity throughout the day, and your subjective confidence in your body's functional response. By day 14, most men who have applied the technique correctly and without interruption report clear and meaningful improvements in at least 2 of these dimensions. If by day 14 you have genuinely and consistently applied the technique as described and observed no change across any of these dimensions, this may indicate that additional factors are contributing to your erectile difficulty beyond underactivation of the pelvic neurovascular system. Vascular conditions, hormonal imbalances, or psychological components that require direct clinical evaluation may be present. In that case, speaking with a physician who specializes in men's sexual health would be the appropriate next step. But for the majority of men over 60 experiencing age-related erectile decline rooted in reduced pelvic nerve activation, declining local vascular circulation, and chronic pelvic floor tension, 14 days of consistent daily practice will produce observable and meaningful biological change. My career has been built on one foundational scientific conviction. The human body retains a remarkable and often underestimated capacity to repair, restore, and reactivate its own functional systems when given the right inputs in the right form at the right frequency. Whether those inputs are nutritional bioactive compounds, behavioral changes, or, as in this case, targeted mechanical stimulation of neurologically significant anatomical structures, the underlying principle is the same. Work with the body's own biology rather than around it, and the biology responds. Your erectile function is not permanently gone. The neurovascular infrastructure that supports it is likely underactivated rather than irreversibly damaged. The pudendal nerve pathway, the bulbospongiosus muscle, and the pelvic vascular system retain their biological capacity to respond. They need the right stimulus delivered consistently at the right anatomical location for sufficient time to produce the accumulated neural adaptation and vascular improvement that restore reliable function. 30 seconds a day with a device you already own is a genuine, biologically grounded starting point. Give it 14 days with real consistency. Let your biology show you what it is still fully capable of. If this content gave you a new understanding of what your body is capable of, click the like button so this message can reach other men who need it. Subscribe to join this community and drop 3 words in the comments right now. I am trying this. I read every comment and I want to know who is genuinely committed to giving this a real and consistent test. I am Dr. William Lee. Thank you for watching, and thank you for choosing to take your health seriously.